Thank you for joining me on this video about policy-based forwarding. Policy-based forwarding or policy-based routing has always traditionally had a bit of a bad name within the IT community. I know for a fact I worked with a contractor who would literally string you up for saying those very words. However, I do think it has its place. I think it makes things one hell of a lot more flexible, and as long as you're aware that it's there really is no excuse. There's no issue with doing it. Okay, so let's give you an idea of the topology at the minute. So currently I have in my network, I have this Kali Linux box, which is here. Okay, and this is the public IP that it's going out of currently. So from my VPN provider, that's the IP that I have on the other side. Okay, my public IP. But what I want to do is, because all my traffic goes up that way, what I want to do is I want to then be able to evaluate, do security scans on that IP, which I can't do because I'd be scanning from myself to myself, and I mean the issues there are, well, fairly clear. So what I'm going to do is I have a VPN, so that Kali box is sat in my offensive host zone and my offensive host subnet, and on my local LAN I have a different subnet because it is a different network, and the reason for pointing that out will become clear later. But I have a AWS IPsec VPN. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to take my traffic from my Kali box and I want to route it up there. And there's many use cases for this. If you want to route something to a different IP address, if you want to, I personally have a Palo in AWS. Now that is a very costly thing to do, but if you were to get a free VPN, like OpenVPN or something like that, you could then route your traffic up there in order to bypass any IP restrictions or anything like that you may have. Or also, there's a lot of, and I'll be doing a video on this later, because there's a lot of talk around whether people should have personal internet access VPNs or so on. And there's use cases for these, yeah, but the problem is, for me, they're sold under the guise of being secure. It's improve your security, No, it's not improve your security. If anything, it's worse, because what you're actually doing then is you are allowing an endpoint that you know nothing about, that's run by some third party, and you are dropping your traffic out of that endpoint. And the worst ones are the ones that let you do the HTTPS proxies and stuff like this, because then they're seeing your traffic unencrypted. Anyhow, you can use this to run your own VPN. So I digress. As we move on this, so we know we've got my Kali Linux box at 10.0201.14, and what we want to do is we want to just route that up the VPN to give us a new IP address. So policy-based forwarding rule, our source. So in this particular instance, it's just come from the offensive host, which sounds very grand, but I have actually got one host in that offensive pool. You can get more granular with this, so you can have any source address within that zone, or you can have a source user from that zone, so you can route traffic based on the user. There's also, you can do it by zone, or you can do it by interface. So destination, application service. So obviously the application service speak for themselves. Now the destination, as you can see, in here we've got a default route, and that would work. In fact, it does work. There is only one inherent issue with it, which is, as I'm on a different subnet to where these boxes sit, and I'm trying to access it, if you like, locally within my home network, if I've got a default route as this going out to AWS, it actually prevents me from being able to log onto the box. It prevents me from being able to get an RDP session or an SSH session for that matter to my Kali box, because all traffic coming back from the Kali box hits the PBF rule first and then is sent straight to AWS. All manner of issues. It does work and will work whilst the VPN is up, because it just gives you a bit of a weird sort of traffic route, because it goes up to there, and obviously the box in AWS knows it's got a route to my subnet because it's my LAN back down the tunnel, so it goes up the tunnel to come back down the tunnel, and thus is evaluated twice. The issue comes in very much when the VPN's down, because as I said, the cost of running the Palo in AWS is astronomical, and I don't leave it running all the time. It gets stopped. So at that point, it still hits the PBF rule. It still goes up the tunnel, or tries to go up the tunnel. Tunnel's down, so I lose access to my box. Now there's two ways of doing this, and the first way we're going to do is I'm actually going to drop that out. Okay, then I'm going to add my LAN, which is in here if I can find it. So add my internal LAN, and I'm going to negate it. Basically meaning then that I want to push everything up this tunnel except for this. And what that should do is that should mean regardless of the status of the tunnel, I've got access, because it will use the routing table. It knows where I am for those for any IPs within that range. The other ways, as you can see, is to monitor it, and you use a monitor profile, and then you can select to disable the rule if the next top monitor IP is unreachable, and then an IP address to reach on the other side. So when the tunnel goes down, it disables the rule. But we'll look at that later. Okay. So for now, I'm going to go internal LAN as negated. Anything from there, anything to, and that's the name of our rule and so on. Okay. And do that. Okay. So now I'm going to enable that rule because I didn't previously, and we'll push the policy. Believe me, the security policies are in place. Security policy is in place here in its own time. So I have gone up and down to my AWS VPN. Is all good. Okay, so back to there, and we'll commit this now, and come back to it shortly, and we'll see if that works. Okay, and so now we can see, now that policy has been pushed, and you can see the logs behind it as well. We'll just try and connect to it. Use the correct login details, of course. Okay, and then we can see we've got the new IP address there, because now it's going up the VPN and out of the other side, and we can just confirm that as well here. So we can see that we have traffic going that way. The egress interface when the PBF rule is in place is 20. When it's not in place, it's ETH11, which is my outside interface. So if we now go to here and go to get rid of that, to here. And so there we can see, if I then get rid of that, wait for the log to come through. And now we can see that the DNS call was made out at tunnel 20, so going out the other side. So that's basically, that really is the top and bottom of PBF. And as I say, it's one of those things that a bit like NAT really can solve a whole host of issues. PBF can do exactly the same. The issue with the routing, I would very much suggest that if you're going to route something like that, so you want a default route, I would negate any local or locally routed subnets, because it will pass everything down the tunnel. And as I say, you can go for the monitoring, the tunnel monitor as well, which will automatically retract the route, because now if I shut that down, I'll have no internet access on that box and won't know anything about it, whereas if we put the monitor on, then you would, because it would remove the route. But that is it. It's only really a quick video just to go into PBF. So remember the important things, which is, one, if your traffic's not working, always just a quick thing. So it's not on by default. So this egress interface is not on by default, but it really does solve a lot of issues. So if we move this down, a lot of times you've got issues with routing, or you've got issues with access outside connectivity, especially if you've got multiple routes out of your networks, or you've got multiple possible destinations. If you have the egress interface, so which isn't checked, so you just go to that there, columns, and then you can adjust for which columns are displayed and which aren't. Find egress interface and tick it, and then you'll have that, and then you can see now that that's why. So what I would see is when the VPN goes down, which it will do in about 5 minutes because it's costing me a fortune. So when that goes down, it'll still try to egress that until I remove that rule. So we'll look into the monitoring and tunnel monitoring and so on in the next video, but my intention was really to try and make a short video based on this. So please like and subscribe, and I'll come back with the next one. And comments, if anybody has any comments, clean ones only please, comments or something they'd like to see, again clean only please, something like to see, or something, a question or a query that they have, just put it in the comments below, and if I can solve it I will do, and I'll put a video on. If you have a specific issue with Palo Alto that you're dealing with at the time, then I'm more than happy to try and assist to solve that by way of a video. Obviously, if you do have any issues, leave out any customer or personal identifying information, so make sure it's as generic as possible. And that's it. So I'll see you in the next video.